What's going on, guys? So good morning or good afternoon or good evening whenever you're watching this video, and also when I release it. But obviously by the title of this video you can see this is about my first 90 days in CrossFit. So the video is broken down into the three main parts. The timestamps are below with what I'm going to cover, so if you want to jump ahead or jump around to something that interests you, feel free. So the three main parts are: one, just a quick overview of my personal background to provide a little bit of context for where I'm coming from in my viewpoint. Two was kind of what I like about CrossFit, and then three is what I dislike or what I think, buyer beware, so to speak, things you should be aware of before starting or joining or doing CrossFit. So as far as background goes, grew up as a fat kid, lost a lot of the weight after my senior year of high school. In between that transition from senior year of high school to freshman year of college, this was right around 2012. Went through a nasty binge restrict cycle for a few years, probably the most popular video on YouTube. I'll put the link in here, and it's also in the description if you want to click on it. And then from there, I've competed in powerlifting events twice, 2016 and 2018. I believe the first one was at the 83 kilo class, and the second one was in the 93 kilo class. And then in between those, 2017, I did one bodybuilding or physique show. It was not bodybuilding, physique show. Powerlifting improved, and then the physique show I won my division. So a little bit of background. So I haven't always been disciplined with nutrition and pushing myself in the gym when it comes to training over those, I guess, 8 years. But I obviously do have some underlying muscle, as you'll see in the photos when the results is not just because of CrossFit, so to speak. Like, there's an underlying base of muscle there, and I'll show a photo from the physique show just to provide a little bit of context, I guess, if you will. I'm not attributing everything that you're about to see in the photos and I described to CrossFit. Obviously there's background important because, right, wrong, or indifferent, I've done something for 8 years prior to ever starting CrossFit. So what I like about CrossFit, obviously the results. So here are two photos. One is from the month of September 2020, and one is from the month of May when I started CrossFit. I started CrossFit, I believe, right around mid-May. Let's just call it mid-May. So obviously the results are pretty good, and I've kept the weight off now for a month since my lowest point. And I was intentionally dieting during my initial entry into CrossFit for a couple reasons. One, I moved to Georgia, so I wanted to look good. Let's just be honest. Two, there was just not a lot of benefit to carrying around extra weight with all the movements that you had to do. It kind of was an anchor, and just wanted to get rid of that as far as that goes. And three, I started doing 75 hard right after Memorial Day. So I just picked weight loss as my diet, so to speak, for the part of that program. And I used Avatar Nutrition, separate conversation. The next point is variety. It's kind of one of the reasons why I started doing CrossFit in general. So I've done powerlifting and did the bodybuilding-esque bro lifting, whatever you want to call it, for a while, but it got kind of stalled, it got kind of boring. So just the variety of CrossFit is interesting. There's like a few basic movements, and then a lot of stuff comes off of that, and it's amazing what you can do with like a dumbbell or a kettlebell or a barbell, how many movements come off of that, those three pieces of equipment, and how many things you can do versus like your standard commercial gym, which has like all sorts of stuff and like things that target the minutia of details. And then the last thing I like about CrossFit, and I've always found kind of interesting, was the concept of the games. Now, obviously the games now aren't what they quote unquote used to be because of CrossFit stuff. That's not the point of this video. But I think the first time I saw the games was in 2013 or 2014 at like a family party that just happened to be on TV, and the concept was just very fascinating. And it was kind of like the Olympics, if you will. So I always was attracted to the games aspect of the sport. So what some things I dislike or things that I just want to be aware of, one of the movements. So CrossFit has some gymnastics work, like with rings and the muscle ups and the kipping pull-ups, and then it has the Olympic movements with like the cleans and the snatches and all the variations of hang cleans and squat clean, all that stuff. I get there's a huge discrepancy with sport. I'm not even going to get into it. So if you're new to working out in general, those movements are pretty technical in nature, especially like the gymnastics works a lot about rhythm. I'm still trying to figure it out, like handstands and all, or handstands and all this stuff. A lot of it comes down to momentum and just technical details, which going from never training or being pretty inexperienced lifting to stuff like that, I mean, it's a pretty big jump. It's like taking someone who's only ever driven a car, on the road, so to speak, and putting them in some type of race car and putting them in some type of event and expecting them to perform well. Like, it's just not going to end well for anybody involved. So that's one of the things I somewhat dislike about it, or just not necessarily dislike, things to be aware of. And it's definitely gotten me good. I've still, you can see in the video, still trying to work on the movements. I'm still trying to come up with a system to improve those movements, which will be a later video. Last one is Phorm. So a lot of the videos that get released about the Phorm is, one, not scaling the weight down. So a lot of workouts have a prescribed weight for what they call RX, which is like as prescribed. But if you're new or just aren't good at the movement, you scale it down to something that you can do. Now, it's tough because your ego gets involved, mine included, and you want to look, you want to be like everybody else. You don't want to be doing scaled stuff. So Phorm obviously is going to start to break down. You start doing weight that you really can't do. In addition, some of the workouts are like speed, I don't know all the named workouts, but there's one of the workouts where it's like 30 snatches for time at a certain weight. And Phorm starts to break down as you go on later and doing, rep 27, 26, etc. Your Phorm starts to suffer. So, videos like that get released and people just think CrossFit has bad Phorm. It really doesn't. I mean, there's bad Phorm in all commercial gyms across the world, so to speak, because we're humans and our ego gets involved and we try and do things that we haven't been training for or just aren't experienced in, or a plethora of other reasons. So something to be mindful of. And the last one is gear. Like I said, I've lifted for a while prior, so I already had like a weightlifting belt and knee sleeves and wrist wraps, and I've had Olympic lifting shoes and just regular squat shoes. The one thing I'm still trying to learn about CrossFit is I bought myself going to buy myself, I should say, a pair of sweatbands for my forearms. Some of the workouts are pretty intense in terms of how much you sweat, and they require you to grip things or like do wall balls or stuff like that, and your hands will get very sweaty. Obviously, I'm located in Georgia, so it's pretty humid in the summer, and sometimes even just holding on to things with your sweaty hands, no matter how much you chalk them, is almost useless, so to speak. So got to pick up sweatbands to try and help stop some of the sweat from getting onto my hand. Another thing is just within a workout, you might go from doing an Olympic lift, like a compound movement, to like running, or a lot of variation. So one of the toughest parts is like the shoes that you wear, and that's when I'm still trying to figure out, like when it's just a compound movement, like when we're doing, like, let's say back squat for load is what they call it, or we're just doing back squat, that's all we're doing. We're not doing like back squat and then something. I can wear squat shoes or wear powerlifting or Olympic lifting shoes and be fine with it. But if we're doing back squat, like one of the workouts this past week was we did front squat and then we ran 400 meters. Well, those are really two different shoe attires, and you don't change in the middle of a workout. So, I ended up doing my front squats in semi-running shoes, if you want to call them that, and it just wasn't very comfortable. And my knees do feel it, and I have kind of taken it easy the rest of the week. But that's one of the last things is the gear situation, something I'm still trying to figure out. But in summary, those are the likes and dislikes, or things to be aware of when starting CrossFit. And I hope you guys found this video useful. If you have more specific questions about my experience, by all means, you can leave a comment or send me a note, and I'll try and answer to the best of my abilities about what I was doing specifically. And just look for the next video, which will be more in depth as we go through this process.